Welcome to Smashterpieces, a casual walk through the history of the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate roster. My name is Joe.
And I'm Matt.
And if you're new here to this show, we are playing one game for every character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And today's game is... Fuck, I forgot to... Oh, goddamn.
Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters.
But, it's for Palutena. It's fighter number 54, 1991 Game Boy game, Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters. Look, you can read. You read the title. You know what it's about. I have faith in you.
Should you?
I hope so. I would hope so. You can read, right, listener? You have to tell me if you can't read.
I have faith that everyone is smart enough to get strength upgrades.
We'll get to that, alright? Look, I'll talk about that. So, we're here to talk about the second Kid Icarus game, of which we both had very different experiences. I have something to say about why I think my experience went the way it did, because I've been racking my brain trying to figure it out since. I didn't enjoy it, but a lot of it seems to... Like I said, I think I figured out why I had the experience I did, but you had a good time.
Yeah, this game was great.
You had a surprisingly good time.
It's not a perfect game by any means, and I'll agree, the boss designs are still pretty bland as far as things go, but, I didn't think anything about the game was, egregious or anything. I had a good time playing it, and I thought it was a huge improvement over the original in pretty much every way.
I would agree in multiple, fashions that I can even point out, such as levels are shorter now, instead of the 600-year-long fucking levels that the original had. They're what, 5 minutes long? If that?
Something like that, yeah.
They're short. They're around the length of a Mario level, I want to say.
Yes. A little longer, because there's exploration stuff in it, but roughly, it's a platformer.
And speaking of being a platformer, Pit feels not awful to control.
That's a big improvement. We didn't have that last time.
One of the main reasons being, he can slow his own descent. He's not floaty as all fucking hell unless you need him to be. And, he just controls better.
The thing that I think is really, really key and important when it comes to, why the levels are better is the way that the camera scrolls, which is to say it doesn't just... It doesn't refuse to scroll backwards. It lets you fall and not instantly die. It lets you go backwards a little bit to see something you missed or to try something again. It gives you the opportunity to move like a human being would instead of instantly destroying you.
The world doesn't disappear from existence once the camera has scrolled above it.
Yeah.
Which is quite an improvement.
The original game did that, and that was, pits that should not have been bottomless were bottomless because the camera refused to move.
And that's one of the biggest reasons why the first one's so fucking hard.
Yes, because it doesn't allow any mistakes.
And the other reason the first one is so fucking hard is health upgrades are exceedingly rare, which they fix in this one, in that health upgrades are actually pretty common.
Yeah, you just kind of get them for the most part.
And so here's my problem. Here's the problem I had, not the problem with the game. So I think the main thing that sort of screwed me going forward is I didn't do those. So in the original Kid Icarus, you would walk into a room and there would suddenly be a bunch of weird nose enemies and you'd kill them all and get hearts from them, and that would really help your skill. And this game has that too, but with bats, but I wouldn't do them because I was still playing with the mentality of the first game. Being that at the beginning of the game, those aren't worth it. You don't have enough health, and health pickups are rare. So those aren't worth it at the start of the first Kid Icarus game. And I was kind of going in with that mentality, and that screwed me over for the whole thing. I got 2 strength upgrades the entire game. You want to tell them how many you got?
7, I think.
Yep, sure did.
Well, I think something else is that just in general, you weren't really going for enemies. There were points when, the floating skull things would be flying around you, and you'd just kind of ignore them. You'd just keep going. And that's the kind of thing that you can't really do in a game that gives you upgrades based on how many enemies you've killed.
Well, again, I want to say that was also me going in with the mentality of, this is like the first Kid Icarus, which was, fuck, there are so many enemies on screen, just go, just fucking go. Even if you kill them, it's gonna replenish them all. Just go. And like, that's not really the case in this one.
A lot of them did respawn, but not to the degree that they did in the original.
Yeah. Such as the feet. By the way, this game has enemies that are just feet. They're just fucking feet that fall from the sky.
Is that what they were?
Yeah. Yeah. They were just feet.
Is that a JoJo reference?
Maybe? No. At this point, it wouldn't. No, it would be at this. I don't fucking know, man. Look, all I know is that there were enemies that were feet. And I don't know how to process that as an adult. I'm sure as a kid it was amazing. But this game is largely like erased from history for Nintendo outside of selling it on the 3DS. It's just gone. Nothing from this game ended up in Uprising. Nothing from this game has ever been in Smash. It's just fucking gone.
Nothing from this game has ever been anything.
Yeah. It's just gone. It was never even sold in Japan. So like, it's weird, and it's not a surprise to me.
I'm not sure why that's the case either, because it was like the development studio that made it is Japanese, and it was produced by Gunpei Yokoi. It's not like it was just some weird thing that they gave to an American studio in the meantime. This was a full proper game.
It must not have sold well in America, but then why did it come out in America first? That's super odd. Especially for this point in time for Nintendo.
I have no idea. I mean, I know it reviewed pretty well, and there's not really a lot of sales data for video games from the early 90s, but it's...
Especially from Nintendo.
Yeah, and...
Because they were kind of mum on a lot of shit. They still are.
It's just kind of... It's hard to tell anything about this. This is just a game that most people are surprised to know even exists.
Most people, so we had multiple conversations where I said, I finished Kid Icarus, or I'm going live with Kid Icarus, and one of our friends actually responded with, wait, I thought you already beat that game.
Yeah.
I was like, no, we're on the sequel now. It was like, didn't that come out 20 years later? No, there's a Game Boy game. It's like, what? Nobody knows this game happened.
And it really speaks a lot to how few of our friends listen to our show.
Yeah, always get a good guilt trip in there. But I think it speaks most to this game was erased from history, basically.
Yes, and I cannot even begin to imagine why. It's not a bad game. I guess it must have sold poorly, because what else would happen? It's a better game than the first Kid Icarus in pretty much every way. But for some reason, that's the game that everyone remembers nowadays, because that's the game that Nintendo continues to put back out there. It's the game that counts when in canon for Uprising. They've been gone for 20 years, not 15 years like it was supposed to be. I think it's 25 and 20, not 20 and 15, but
somewhere around there.
Either way, it's a game that has been just mysteriously forgotten. And I feel like that's really the most interesting thing about it. I don't know if there's really much else to say about the game, because it's just listen to our episode about Kid Icarus and imagine that all of the problems were improved upon in a big way, because it is largely it's largely the same exact kind of game. They just took the problems and fixed them.
And the whole thing with it being erased from the canon is kind of a thing I've noticed, because that's a thing we were talking about from the last Game Boy game we played, being Super Mario Land, which is one song is in Smash, and Daisy's in Smash, and that's the end of the Super Mario Land stuff.
That's more than Myths and Monsters got.
That's more than Myths and Monsters got, for sure. Like, obviously, this got that to a harder degree, but like, the original Game Boy just isn't given a lot of play. And, I mean, I don't really blame anybody for not giving it a lot of play, but also, like, it's kind of weird that Pit is in Smash now and only 2 games matter. Especially because, and I guess this is a good segue into this, the soundtrack of this game's really good.
Yeah.
Why is it not in Smash?
I don't think there's anything as immediately recognizable as the first game had. Again, probably because it was never given the chance to be in Smash or be remembered. But, like, every song is really good. Even like, the dungeon musics, not all of them are great, but I remember getting to the first dungeon and being like, wow, they even stepped up their game with the dungeon music.
The first 2 fortresses have the same song, and it's very good. It's extremely catchy. In fact, here it is. So, like, that's a huge improvement over the first game. It's even roughly a loop of the same length, I want to say, but it's catchier and better, and it's just got more parts to it.
Yeah, it's just a better game. I don't understand why the original Kid Icarus is the one that everyone remembers.
But don't worry, they kept up one tradition from the original Kid Icarus. And that's that the boss theme sucks.
Well, yeah. I think there's something else that the game does that's really cool is the transition into the final boss fight. I know we've kind of moved on to talking about soundtrack already, but I did want to touch on that really quick because especially on the Game Boy, one of the earliest handheld games ever made, the transition of like just kind of the entire room falling away and this huge form appearing and like the size of a building in front of you and that's what you're fighting was awesome.
For every game, we replace our cover photo on Twitter and Facebook with a thing to represent the game we're currently on, and Matt makes all of those. And when you gave me the one for Myths and Monsters, I thought it was a fake screenshot because the Orcos pixel art looks way too fucking good to be on a Game Boy. There's no goddamn way. But no, it's real. That's what it looks like.
It looks incredible.
It's really good, especially for a Game Boy sprite. I don't know what else to say there.
This game just doesn't get a fair shake from Nintendo. It deserves so much better than they've given it.
But it must have sold badly. It had to have. I don't know what else would have caused something like this.
I don't know. I really don't know.
It's just been wiped from the annals of history, and I don't get it.
To get back to the soundtrack really quick. First of all, like all the songs are a banger, but I especially really like the Overworld level 2 theme. That one's just it's poppin'. It's better than the first game's overworld theme. So suck on that, Smash. Get the real overworld theme into Ultimate. You cowards.
I really like the Underworld theme. I think it's very, very good. I don't think it's as catchy as the original. I think that one's not as good as the original, but I think it's pretty damn close.
Real quick, I'm checking that Smashboards thread about like the list of all confirmed music tracks, and I'm making sure that Ultimate doesn't have any songs from Myths and Monsters, because this game deserves it.
I mean, I doubt we'd see it because it would be on 2 stages that nobody's in a rush to play. I'm not gonna well, no, it'd be on 3 stages that nobody's in a rush to play. Well, I don't think most people don't like Skyward, and I don't like Skyward. And Palutena's temple is fucking too big. But like, I don't know what people's feelings are on Reset Bomb Forest because it was in 3DS, and I assume, like most people, I stopped playing 3DS when Wii U came out. So I don't remember what people think of Reset Bomb Forest.
Yeah, as far as we know so far, there's nothing from Myths and Monsters that made it into Ultimate. So hopefully they'll prove us wrong.
900 songs, surely one of them came from the Game Boy game. I don't say that with certainty, but
it didn't so far. They'll just put the whole soundtrack to Uprising on, but they won't touch Myths and Monsters.
They don't even remix the music from Uprising, which, to be fair, we'll get to that in like a year, 2 years.
That's generous.
Let's be optimistic here. 2 years. But like, to be fair, the soundtrack doesn't need remixing. It's already fucking incredible. But like, I don't know. I will give another quick bit of criticism that, the last fortress, so like the first 2 fortresses I still don't like, but they're at least better than the original game's fortresses. And then they were like, hey, what if we just put the same like shitty kind of fortress in the 3rd level? Cause the third fortress feels like one from the original game, and that's not a good thing.
They get bigger each time, which I know that they did this in the original game where the first fortress in Myths and Monsters actually feels like a first fortress. The first fortress in the original Kid Icarus was roughly the size of the final fortress in Myths and Monsters, if I remember correctly. They were just too big.
I think that's right.
Way too much was going on, and they're so much more manageable in Myths and Monsters. I really felt...
But I bet you money, here's the thing, I have to point this out. I bet you money the only reason they're so small is because this fucking game's on the Game Boy.
Oh, probably. But
I don't think that was a conscious decision.
I mean, that's what I say this a lot. Art through adversity. It's making the best product you can through your limitations, and getting rid of those limitations is not always a good thing.
Yeah. I don't know. But like, also this fortress has shitty music. Like, they change the song in the 3rd fortress and make it bad. Like, not bad, but boring.
Yeah, but I don't think that the 3rd fortress is that egregious, because I think that something else that's going on there is that we were kind of conditioned to, because of the first game, to just go straight to a map because it was hopeless. But actually going through the fortress, I feel like I could have, like the first one, I feel like I could have easily found my way through that without the map. And if I had stuck with it and like developed that dungeoneering skill for this game, then I would have probably been able to navigate through the 3rd fortress. I just didn't give it a chance in that regard, and I probably should have.
I disagree. Looking at the map of the 3rd fortress, I don't think I would have been able to do it. The first one, maybe. Second one, I don't really remember all that much, but the first one, I don't think. Or the 3rd one. The 3rd one, I think the 3rd one has the same problem of the original Kid Icarus dungeons, which is it's way too fucking big, and there is one critical path. And that's the critical path you take, or you don't get to the boss. I don't think I remember the first 2 having the same issue, but the 3rd one definitely feels like an original Kid Icarus dungeon for the worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it's great. And the dungeons are still the weakest levels, but there's still a huge improvement over the last game.
That being said, I did not like any of the bosses in this game. I will say, better than the first game, but that's the lowest bar you could possibly make.
I just felt that they were bland. That, I think, is the worst of them.
Do you remember Hydraw's boss fight in the original?
Yes.
Well, none of them are that bad, but I think the Minotaur sucks a lot. I think the Skullbat actually isn't that bad. He's kind of boring, but I don't think he's all that bad. And then the Flame Serpent, even the walkthrough that I consulted said the best strategy is to stand in this corner and just hit him as he flies by because he can't hit you.
But that's not the best strategy. That's just the easiest strategy. That's the problem. You were playing very passively against him. If you had gone more active, then you probably would have beaten him a lot sooner.
I doubt that, but not because of the boss, because of the lack of strength upgrades. I don't think I would have.
The way you played this game is kind of like those runs where someone goes through Dark Souls with a level 1 character.
Yeah, that means I'm just really good at Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters when I have save states. And sorry, I coughed a little bit there. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cough. But I don't think the bosses are, well, I think the Minotaur is bad. I really dislike how the Minotaur works just in general. But I don't think any of the bosses are outright bad. And in fact, the final boss ain't all that bad.
Final boss just has too much health.
Final boss has too much health and two forms with too much health in general.
The final boss would be a lot better if it either had less health or more variety. Either one of those things would have improved it in a big way.
And I think that's the main problem with all four of the bosses in the game is that they're all just, they're one pattern. And that pattern doesn't even randomly happen. It's just one pattern.
Yeah, it's very easy to predict them, so they get very monotone.
And that's not to say there isn't any elements of randomness, because obviously, like, the Minotaur has a fucking element of randomness as to where it's going to show up. But I don't know. The bosses just, they stepped up their game a little bit, but they kind of reminded me a little bit of, like, Hydra in a way. Being that, yep, I sure am fighting a boss. And with the lack of my strength upgrades, by the way, they all took like half an hour to 45 minutes to beat.
I still can't believe that they kept the poorly translated names as canon. Like, Hydra is very obviously supposed to be Hydra.
Yep, sure is. And yet they got Pandora right. Good job, guys. You at least got Pandora right.
That one's kind of hard to mess up from katakana. But, like, Thanatos is still canon, even if they changed it in Uprising to, like, him canonically changing his name. But Palutena is actually a poorly translated name. That one probably ended up sticking because of Smash Brothers, because she wasn't an important character in Smash Brothers, but she got a trophy in Smash Brothers.
What was she supposed to be? What would she have been a bad translation of?
Parthena.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, her name is supposed to be Parthena, but from the studio that brought you Hydra and Thanatos came Palutena.
What even was the first boss it was Twimbelos. Yeah.
That's an actually creative name.
That was an actual, yeah, cause
by accident.
He was a two-headed dog instead of being Cerberus. Yeah, completely by accident. I don't know what else to say about this game.
There's not it's like I said, there's not a lot to say about it. It's just the original game, but significantly better. And if you played the first game and you didn't like it, if you bounced off it, try this one, because it's significantly better. It improves in pretty much every area. It's the Kid Icarus game that should be remembered. but instead the one that gets pushed by Nintendo is the original NES game. So people play that and they feel like this franchise wasn't worth reviving, and it's only regarded well nowadays because of how good Uprising is. But as good a game as Uprising ended up being, I think it's really sad that it's the only thing people see as being worth playing in this franchise, because Myths and Monsters is a really good game, and it is the game that this franchise deserves to be remembered for, and instead of the NES game. And I really strongly recommend that people give it a try, because
I honestly do feel like if I hadn't played the original Kid Icarus, I probably would have enjoyed, if I hadn't played it first, I probably would have enjoyed this game a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think the existence of the first Kid Icarus is an active hindrance to this game.
And I think that's really sad. I would love to see this game get more play, like put a song in Smash, give it, like, make it canon again, do something, mention Orcos in any context. I don't know. Just let this game live again. Let's
get an Orcos spirit. Let's do it.
If Orcos is a spirit in Ultimate, then I think I'll probably pop off pretty hard. That's what I want right now. I want to see an Orcos spirit.
But speaking of spirits, we've got 3 games to add to this list.
Oh boy.
And we should probably get to that before we move on to our next game.
Can you imagine an alternate universe where we got 7 new games to add?
No.
No, I can't either, because there's probably no universe where that was real.
That would have been stupid. And what could we possibly be talking about? Who knows? Anyways, so in the last Nintendo Direct, which obviously happened before we recorded, before you even played the game. No, you played the game right after. You played it the day of the Direct.
Yep.
So we got 3 characters confirmed. One of them is DLC. Still not 100% how we're going to handle that, but we already know what the game's going to be for that character anyways, so we might as well announce it. For Ken Masters of the Street Fighter series, that is 60 Epsilon. Yeah, it's Epsilon. We will be playing Street Fighter V.
Which has a story mode nowadays.
It does, but I've done my time, and maybe I'll play it on stream. Maybe. It's not very good, but maybe I'll play it. Basically, the win condition on there is exhibition matches, which I officially also changed that to be the Street Fighter 2 win condition, because I feel like that in general is a better representation of the Street Fighter franchise.
I still think it would be fair to do story mode for 5, but as far as Street Fighter 2 goes, just doing a single run of arcade mode, yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah, and then, but like, those games are meant to be played multiplayer, at the very least. Those should have exhibition matches attached to them. Mm-hmm. So that is what we will be playing for Ken. Hopefully we will have all the DLC by now. We both own it on PC, and I own it on PS4, but with none of the DLC, except Minot. She's literally the only character I own on PS4. So that's not really a thing. We both own it without Season 3? Season 4?
I know I definitely don't own the latest season, whichever one that is.
Yeah, we don't own the latest season that has like Cody and G and all them. So hopefully we have plenty of time to get it before then. And
which season has Negan?
That's the wrong game, friend.
Which one has Noctis?
It's
What about 2B? Actually, I have that one. I have that season pass.
Okay, cool. And then for Incineroar, he's fighter number 69. Nice. We will be playing the 2016 3DS game Pokemon Sun/Moon. Now, the question becomes, does Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon count for that? And normally I would say yes, because guess what, guys? Those are the same fucking game, but they're just different enough that for the purposes of a discussion podcast, it's gonna be Sun and Moon. And the only reason it's not Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon is because those came out after Breath of the Wild, and I don't want to end the game on Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
We're finishing on Breath of the Wild. We are already cheating and putting Fire Emblem Warriors before Breath of the Wild. We cannot cheat and put Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon a whole year early.
Yeah, that's just not gonna work. So it'll be, also, I just think that Sun and Moon are better in general. I didn't like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon as much.
I didn't like either of them.
But that being said, those are what we will be playing. We did make a pact that in the unlikely event that another Pokemon gets announced, we're not playing any more mainline Pokemon games. It's going to be all spin-offs from here on if Sakurai decides to be cruel and somehow brings in another Pokemon. I don't think he will, for the record.
We will only play another mainline Pokemon game if Medusa gets announced.
Also, if it's Gen 8, we won't really have a fucking choice. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think there's going to be another Pokemon announced for this game. I don't think any of the DLC characters are going to be Pokemon. Speaking of DLC characters, we got our first one. God bless it. The Piranha Plant, fighter number 70.
Fighter number 70, Piranha Plant. That's how you've been saying it every time.
So, originally, we didn't know what the fuck we were going to play for this, because it's a Piranha Plant! What are we going to play for this?
Piranha Plant has also literally never been playable in anything ever.
But I think you're the one that pointed out that a lot of its moveset seems to be based around some of its stuff in Paper Mario.
Not a lot of it, but it's poison gas
enough
move.
To justify that its game is the 2004 GameCube game Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. We kind of decided on this and not Paper Mario 64 because we have some unfinished fucking business with this goddamn game, being that both of us, you twice, have reached the end of Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door and been unable to beat the final boss. We have both experienced this.
I have never finished this game. This is one of my favorite games ever made. And twice in my life, I've played the entire game, gotten to the end, and not been able to beat it.
So we consider that unfinished business with Thousand Year Door. The final boss of this game is balls hard, and we're gonna finish it this time. God damn it, I hope. So whether it's still kind of up in the air whether we're gonna do down DLC characters after as like supplemental stuff. I'm kind of now leaning farther towards we should just put them in the actual lineup. Like that's, I don't know. Either way, seems alright, but then like Breath of the Wild's a good place to end the whole show. Then
I mean, it's like imagine if like the final character announced is like, imagine I don't even know
it
like
was
who.
Duck Hunt.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine if it was that.
And then we'd have to play Duck Hunt last. What a great finale to the show.
Imagine if the final game we have to play is Grand Blue Fantasy. Grand Blue Fantasy is the anime, isn't it? That's not the game.
No, Grand Blue Fantasy's the game. That's the mobile game.
Okay, which one's the anime?
The anime? I do not know.
Like I'm thinking of an anime that like the name is basically identical, but it has nothing to do with Grand Blue.
I have no idea. Is there an anime called Grand Blue Fantasy or something?
There very well might be.
There very well could be. I feel like I've heard about something with that name before.
Yeah, it severely confused me. It's about very handsome men, which Grand Blue Fantasy is not.
So those are the 3 new characters on the list. Those are the 3 new games that come with those characters. We figured out what they are. Originally, we were going to put up a poll to talk about what Piranha Plant was going to be. Sorry, I kind of forgot to tweet that we already figured it out. So, there you go. Now you know. It's going to be...
So we figured it out.
The Thousand Year Door.
We figured it out so you don't have to.
We figured it out so you didn't make us go play who the fuck knows what. Anyways, we should move on to our next game. the game that I am considering our first milestone. So I have it set up on my own personal copy of the list, which you can find at anondino.squarespace.com. It's linked to in every single blog post for the show, every single episode post. You can find a link to the public version of the list of all of our games that we will be playing. This is the 10th game, and I'm considering every 10 games to be a milestone. So this is our first one, and I'm excited because I'm a little bit, to be quite honest, kind of sick of platformers a tad. This is our first non-platformer since Duck Hunt. You know, the first episode of the fucking show.
Jesus, it really is. Oh my god.
Every single game since Duck Hunt has been a platformer, and granted, only the next 2 games are going to be a break from platformers, basically. Because then we have another, let's see, 5 platformers before we hit another non-platformer.
A lot of platformers in Nintendo's history.
Well, like, it makes sense because back in this era, that's what you made. Those were the games that were made.
Yep.
No other genre was really as successful as platformers.
I mean, it's also not fair, like, say that's all that's getting made, because that's just, like, a lot of their non-platform characters we're playing more recent games for.
That is fair. But, like, that was the prevailing genre of the time. Platformers were the FPS or the open world game of that era. Every era has a genre where, like, that was the biggest genre of the time. And platformers were that for this one, I think.
Yeah.
Our next game is not a platformer, and I'm actually kind of excited to get to this one. So, representing fighter number 17, Zelda, we are playing the 1991 Super Nintendo game, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
It has been a good long while since I've played this game.
I've played maybe 10 minutes of this game, and I didn't like what I played, and I'm not sure why, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to change. I'm not going to have that experience this time, because I've since played other 2D Zeldas. I've played Minish Cap since then. I've played Link's Awakening since then, and I enjoyed those games. So, I don't think I'm going to have that experience again this time. I'm very excited to get into this, because I've never really played it.
This one is like the classic. This is the 2D Zelda game.
This is Reggie's favorite.
Yeah, this is the game that the 2D Zeldas keep looking back to. And in a lot of ways, I think most people consider the franchise to have not surpassed it, really, as far as 2D games go.
Yeah.
Every other 2D Zelda game since then has kind of felt like an affectation in a way.
A lot of people would say that, yeah. In fact, there's one that's literally just a remake in everything but name of Link to the Past that came out. That's the most recent 2D Zelda game that came out.
Well, I'm pretty sure that the Japanese name for Link Between Worlds was effectively Link to the Past 2.
I believe so. Nintendo is obviously a very big fan of this one. We are going from a game that Nintendo erased from history to a game that Nintendo refuses to let people forget. And not for good reason. They don't let people forget it. It's supposed to be a fucking classic. And
I mean, it is one of the best games in their history. So,
and obviously, like, the story behind this game being made obviously was the original Zelda was a fucking grand slam, and then Miyamoto made Zelda 2, and he wanted to make it completely different because he didn't want to just tread the same ground over again. And then guess what? A lot of people hate Zelda 2. That game has its fans, but a grand majority of the people hate Zelda 2.
It's like the Paper Mario sticker star of the 80s.
So he had to go. Miyamoto obviously was like, alright, so I want to do something different. People didn't like it. Let's try and just improve upon the formula of the original. And he did. So then we got Link to the Past. It's the original, but if he had made it in that era.
It like I said, it's been a good long while since I have played this game, so I am looking forward to coming back to it, to re-experiencing it, and I am excited. I don't have a lot of firm memories of it, and I want to sort of recreate those memories.
It should be noted, by the way, that this is going to be our longest game so far by far.
This is probably going to be the first game that we'll need to do a progress report for.
Probably. I have a feeling that this game is going to take us to launch of Ultimate.
I think we'll probably get past it, but not with a lot of time to spare.
At the very least, minimally, this will be our last episode before the game comes out. Before Ultimate itself comes out.
Street Fighter is going to be quick. We might get Street Fighter out.
Street Fighter 2 is going to be so the thing with Street Fighter, and we'll talk about this more when we actually get to the episode, that's going to be one stream. So that one's they're going to have a quick turnaround. But I don't know. I might move through this game very slowly. I'm not good at 2D Zeldas. I beat Minish Cap, but it took me a couple months. And that wasn't on stream.
But yeah, I'm thinking we're going to target to have a progress report, just a quick episode, let you know, like, in case you haven't been watching the streams, what's been going on, 2 weeks from the day that you hear this.
Hopefully, ideally.
Yeah, because, we did miss our 2-week figure for this episode. You are probably listening to this about 3 weeks after the last one, but give us some slack. The Smash Direct happened. What were we gonna do?
Also, I'm in school. I'm busy. Which was basically the main reason why it took so long for the last episode to come out even. Mm-hmm. So, give us some time. I might move through this game kind of slow. Please bear with me. I'm not good at video games.
But we do want to have a progress report every couple of weeks, just in case you're not watching the streams, in case the podcast feed is the only way you keep up with us, to make sure that you're still getting something. You're knowing what's going on.
It's good that we established that now, because who knows, maybe we won't need that this time. We will, but maybe we won't. Let's be optimistic, maybe. But you know when we will need it? Earthbound, Final Fantasy VII, Ocarina of Time, Metal Gear Solid.
Speak for yourself. I can beat Ocarina of Time and Metal Gear Solid in like a day.
Okay, I can't beat... while watching all the cutscenes in MGS1, you could beat it in a day?
Yeah, that's why I'm going to play it twice. I'm playing both Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes.
That's what you fucking meant. Well, look, we'll talk about that when we get there. That's still multiple games away from here.
Many multiple games.
Point is...
That is more than the entire previous length of the show away.
We will start hitting much longer games soon. So it's good that we're establishing the progress report thing now. By the way, those progress reports will be no longer than maybe 5 minutes long. For my sake.
Thank God for that.
But, yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I'm looking forward to getting to A Link to the Past. I'm hoping it's going to be a fun one. And, yeah. Let's wrap this up by saying you can follow us on Twitter at Smashterpieces. You can follow us on Facebook at Smashterpieces. And you can find us on our website at anondino.squarespace.com. That is anon as in anonymous. Anondino at squarespace.com. You can find a link to the full list of games that we will be playing. One of them might change. I'm trying to convince Matt to change Rondo of Blood to Symphony of the Night.
I want to play Rondo of Blood.
You could still play Rondo of Blood. I'm not going to stop you. I'd rather play Symphony of the Night for the show, if we're being honest. But that might change. But otherwise, outside of some reordering for games much, much, much further down, that list is pretty set. And if you're looking for what's coming up, that's where you want to go and check it out. And on that website, in every post for the show, you can also find links to both of our Twitch channels. Matt streams things that aren't Smashterpieces games sometimes. I've kind of fallen into only streaming Smashterpieces games because I don't really have time to do anything else right now. But maybe during winter break, I'll stream something else. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'm kind of a fly by the seat of my pants guy, and we'll figure it out.
Cool.
With that, my name is Joe.
And I'm Matt.
And we will see you next time for our episode on The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.